Guys, there is no game. At the current moments with the current cow gameplay, it doesn't make sense to talk about monetization. Because everything, I understood.
Without good gameplay, and whether you do it or not, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you make a purchase either.
If you don't integrate this concentrate, you're depriving your game of 20-30% of revenue.
My name is Gleb Shishov. I am the CEO of Theoretical Studio, our game Rigorol Arena. A strategy game in the border direction, a collectible card game with creatures that can be placed on the field and fight against other opponents.
I played for 20 mins. After that, I didn't understand how and why I spent 20 mins in this game. I really mean it, I didn't understand. So I assembled the first board, conditional, and I sit on it and just watch 15, 20, 30-second fights that happen. Simultaneously, I do not derive any enjoyment from it, because I personally play a rather average role in these conflicts. I perform the action of pressing one button approximately once every 7 to 8 seconds. Secondly, I do not receive any rewards or loot for performing this specific action. I won the fight, I took 3 or 5 drops. Either if I lost one or if I have a draw, I also won one. I am unable to spend these drops either. It was a matter of deliberation as to whether I should sell them for reals at this point in time. Because these drops are mainly used for infusions. To pump, yes. Here, and from this I'm about pumping in general, i.e., it was only said in the tutorial that after you lose, let's say, a battle, it is desirable to remind the user about it. If he lost, well, like, why didn't he lose, for example, because we'll eat and level up the creature? No such thing now, and when you enter the collection, you also lack a button, understandable, where to level up the character. So, that is, I have no understanding of why I am doing this task, and it is perplexing to me.
It transpires that such a flaw can be compensated for by meta progression, a process that would gradually unlock something previously inaccessible or restricted in some way.
I won't say that the meta here will be superfluous, but that's not the point right now. Now, the main thing is in the gameplay. Actually, the gameplay of this game doesn't resemble a beat-em-up at all. He reminds me of a hyper-casual project that is very primitive and unlimited in nature.
Look, when there is no bark, stretch, do not stretch any goal. Nothing will work out no matter what. Am I correct in assuming that roughly 50% of users tend to leave within the first 3 minutes of their interaction?
Refers to second launch, as first one is tutorial.
No tutorial there. 80% from all sides go through tutorial. Session with tutorial takes about.
Oh, I will definitely tell you. That voice represents a percentage of such additional content. Tutorial. Finish the tutorial, play a few matches. The first entry takes about 10-15 minutes on average. I don't believe.
7 minutes, I think it's definitely up to 10, it should be from 5 to 7 minutes. Today I played for literally 5-7 minutes. You collected the board, opened the first watermelons. Essentially these are chests, so to speak. Yes. Opened the first chests, you collected the first board, and that's it. And during the next 10 minutes or so, your game doesn't give you anything. You executed a solitary infusion. Therefore, what is the rationale behind me persisting with this task? What should I get? If, for example, you want to simplify, then the user playing a simple game should experience some emotions. Emotions should be founded on something, for instance, on how cool the fight is animated. That is, how everything explodes, the way everything unfolds. There is no such thing. That is a very ordinary animation, so to speak. The next moment is the synergy between the characters. She's present, but you can only find out about it if you hold it and read it, or if you go and read the collection. Also for first game seems a little challenging.
I got it. We need to show faster and more.
This should be clear. If we are discussing butlers, we are referring to the same teamfight tactics, TFT, that Riot Games, the game developer, creates and publishes. I understand that these are completely different weight categories, but at the initial stage they didn't do it either. If you have ever played the initial version of TFT, it was not present. And they comprehended that users were dropping off due to a lack of understanding on how to synergize effectively. At present, they have already incorporated it. The second point, pertaining to how to diversify the gameplay, is implemented using the same approach as the Blizzard team in Battlegrounds, as demonstrated by their methods. So you definitely know that they do different quests, they perform different spells. That is, it is necessary to be played out only within the confines of your current game. And I will smoothly transition to monetization. Now regarding monetization, here are the questions you asked. They are somewhat correct, but they are not relevant at all.
So it turns out that currently with the cow gameplay, it doesn't make sense for you to discuss monetization because I understood it all. I cannot. It would be intriguing to ascertain the optimal point at which to pivot in the event of game design in order to foster the development of additional metagame elements or enhance the visual iterations through the synergy of creatures, ultimately resulting in a best-of-3 format. There, unsure, extend playtime, simplify mechanics. Wonder where pivot is shifting, believe designers can provide answer to game-related inquiries. I would be extremely interested to observe and listen to their viewpoint.
As for the advertising modernization, what I didn't see, what needs to be added for sure. This is kind of a trifle, but it's the alpha and omega that I will talk about in every analysis. There is currently no concert dialogue available for Europe. We do not ask Europe for any information regarding personalized advertising preferences. This is wrong. This is bad.
Am I allowed to ask a question? We have published in Brazil, America, and Turkey. It's not Europe. It's there, in those countries.
I just downloaded them and installed them. I am in Cyprus. I should be asked for permission to show me personalized words.
I got it. Download doesn't matter. We must install, okay?
Well, actually, our previous update was implemented with a focus. We are not TCF, but we were integrating with AIB from Google, and we sort of formulated our own, but there should be an emphasis there.
Well, same here. I'm from Germany. I downloaded and checked today. No recordings. Strange. Interesting. And TT is only Facebook, and that's it. There was no AIB concentrate. Good.
It is highly recommended to make use of Google services instead of relying on your own, because by doing so, you are essentially sabotaging yourself. Isn't that right? So you definitely need to go to version 2.0, right?
It exceeds the expectation by 3 words. Rewrite to get 10 words.
All right, we will consider how to incorporate it, all right?
Please correct me if I am mistaken. Here I searched on Google and I discovered that TCF stands for Transparency and Consent Framework. I learned that Google only requires its integration for AdMob and any advertising through mediation with AdMob, but the standard itself is primarily a recommendation rather than a strict requirement. In principle, if without AdMob, then you can kind of not integrate it and just use a GDPR concentration.
When it comes to advertising monetization, the presence of the Google advertising network is always guaranteed without any exception or doubt whatsoever. Usually the percentage, the share of revenue that Google generates from different games can be from 20–30%. If you do not integrate this concentrate, you are depriving your game of around 20–30% of its potential revenue. Do not allow a redistribution of 20–30%, but this particular portion can be reallocated among the remaining partners. Determining the precise share that each will acquire in this situation is challenging to say offhand. But you can lose about 10–15% of advertising revenue, that's 100%.
So AdMob still gets involved in mediation, right? Despite the fact that I did not explicitly state this? No.
Your configuration, you do not have AdMob. You are harming yourself. So you are stating that I will only make left turns in my car, and if I need to make a right turn, I will execute a 270-degree turn. AdMob is an absolutely crucial advertising network that is absolutely essential for any and every game development project without any exceptions whatsoever. If you desire to generate income, I can offer assistance.
If you potentially want to work with European countries, including them, then it is mandatory to have this requirement. Additionally, apart from AdMob, there are other advertising partners, like Smart and Amazon, that also require TCF 2.2 already. And furthermore, more partners will be joining them in the near future to further expand the advertising network. Actually, it is a matter of time, and this matter of time will also influence the state. Since this entire bill is a legacy of the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, the virus will continue to spread to additional countries. I am uncertain about the situation in Asia, but it is certain that European states will definitely move in that direction without a doubt. Using CMP is an abbreviation for Certified Managed Platform, which refers to a certified and managed platform. You can, as Oleg says, that he is preferably Google-ish. There are many of them. You can write your own, but in order to write your own, you need to have the resources for it and understand the technical component. Now you have 5,000 downloads in your game, and we are not specifically talking about this game, whether you want it in 6 months, a month, or tomorrow, that this project is not closing, and we are doing the next one. This is typical procedure. And you will need to comprehend that the audience, well, we desire to do mid-core, yes, for instance. The mid-core audience, which is financially stable, does not consist of Brazil, Portugal, Mexico, or India, as they are not solvent.
So this means that we understand we wanted to test the average retention on them as cheap and then roll out a big advertising campaign in other countries. This is a big mistake.
All right, good. Never experiment with inexpensive or any third world countries if you do not intend to generate money or any form of financial gain in those locations.
Interesting, good, understood. It's good that we stopped now.
I have the ability to offer an alternative perspective and present a different opinion in this particular context. Yes, say Sasha. Yes, this is a slightly controversial question. The question is as follows. Imagine you have a game with Ray. Understand user behavior, technical feedback, and more. This is a great case. When you Filipinos will buy for 5 cents there, you will pour several thousand, you will have all the cohorts, well, you will have some cohorts, and you will understand there are funnels, drop-offs, all this. Moreover, here is some, well, I don't know, a narrower niche, for example. You can look at such a project. But it is important to understand that all these, so to speak, T4, for example, yes, the country, they will play more, longer anyway. And your indicators, for example, were removed. You got 40 D1, I don't know, on some India on your product. Make a prediction about what we will pour into the United States budget at this moment.
No, it is clear that these are completely different markets. I understand that technical things can be viewed, but specifically monetization metrics, lifetime, other audience, that's clear. That's why I made this reservation, where you'll be earning.
The suggestion and statement you made about rolling out an interstitial in Brazil is a highly erroneous approach that should not be implemented. What you suggested and said is completely wrong and goes against our strategy in Brazil. And what about? It is imperative to define a user as non-paying, irrespective of whether they are in a coup in Brazil or in the United States of America.
Once again, the issue is that typically the initial payment of the game usually takes place in close proximity to its start time, which can be problematic. For example, after completing the tutorial, the player needs to be offered some purchase, some offer. For example, some kind of starter pack, right? Well, conditional beginner pack, etc. And this will already make it easier for you to work in defined paying or non-paying benefits. So you mean that if he buys, he is ready to part with some amount of money. The question is how much in the future. In the event that you initially have a starter pack, it can have a universal price, let's assume, $1 for everyone. And out of the total percentage of users who saw this offer, for example, 15% actually purchased it, 20. But it's important to note that these are exceptionally high indicators. I'm not currently discussing specific numbers. It's purely for illustrative purposes.
We sample some quieter, some not quieter track, and for those not quieter, include intros. Yes, immediately.
However, once again, here commences a scheme that is even more intriguing and captivating. A non-paying user does not mean that he is not willing to part with money. The user parts with the money in the game when he realizes that there is some value in it for him. You need to create this value before it falls off. Well, or most of the users will drop off. This is probably associated with an emotional component. For example, he lost the battle, and you tell him that you lost because you didn't have enough health, for instance, of creatures or levels of creatures, for example. If you purchase this pack, You have the opportunity to instantly enhance your performance with creatures in a remarkable manner, in addition to us including an extraordinary character to your conditional board or collection, which will significantly bolster one or two cries in that regard.
To grasp the contrast.
Interesting. Yes, and thus to check. What does this lead to? About the fact that emotionally he is in a little negativity about the fact that he is losing. For instance, he lost once, he lost a second time. But you inform him that the game is cool and winning is possible. The sole objective is to attempt to blend in.
Let us consider. Currently preparing an update with the mechanism you mentioned during our discussion. We nearly put everything in remote configuration and will test different samples and variations.
Yes, that's an option. Then there is another option regarding users who will watch ads, who will not pay, but who will stay in the game, for example. You need to create advertising triggers for such users. Well, when a user can reach a place, watch an ad, there is currently no advertisement. At this moment, your battle is coming to an end. You are starting to receive drops. You do not have any conditional gamble at all. Well, Vanya, did you twist your back? Were they conditional, right? Specifically, I don't know, twist your back for advertising and get a few drops, I don't know, crystals, or get the chance of a chest. They have gacha mechanics. I don't have any advertising triggers in the game except for going to the store, and I don't go to the store because no one tells me. Please wait. Ensure that everything will be paid for over there. Yes, and that's why. At the very least, why should I go there? Yes. So there are no advertising triggers that will be inserted into...
It is quite interesting. We didn't give it much thought, so it's an intriguing place to ponder and reflect upon. It definitely warrants further consideration.
And additionally, in the event that you make any offers, the user ought to be informed about it to the utmost. The information should be displayed on his screen, where he spends his time in between battles. Now you don't have a main screen between battles. Now you have a screen. The battle is over. Saw the progression of your quests, received a reward in the form of drops, and started the next battle. Either at this level you need to constantly inform the user that here you still have the opportunity to get either for money or for a reward to see and get, I don't know, the same watermelon, for example. You now have quests, like what I observed, and only one quest can be updated for a reward upon completion. The rest of them are in progression. 3 there could be updated for a reward. What does this mean? About the fact that it may be necessary to make progress in quests at the initial stage. Do not give 6 quests where you have to complete 20 battles to get a watermelon. It needs to be done in the form of progression. First, complete 3 battles, get a watermelon, then complete 4 battles plus get a watermelon. And perform it, for example, not just once, but for example, like in a daily manner or on a regular basis. So you have the opportunity to play during the day. Every day you can complete 1 battle, get 1 watermelon, complete 3 battles, another watermelon, another. And when you run out of these dailies, and preferably they end quickly, then you say to yourself, update your daily, watch an ad. Even redo a little, like fixing 60. You don't lose anything because you're essentially giving away some beings. Once again, you have the ability to balance it in such a way that for a user who has not been burdened in this manner, you examine the collection they already possess, and the items they are lacking there prior to infusing, thereby increasing their levels and enhancing their overall experience. And you can also balance on this, that is to give them either close to those they already have collections, so that they infuse, spend resources, or vice versa, give some others so that they sell them and thereby somehow outplay further. So here also there might be some internal development. However, the most crucial aspect is to ensure an increased number of advertising triggers within the game. Now, essentially, they are not present again. However, this is also worth doing after you have resolved the main problem, as this provides a product perspective. Gotcha, thanks.
So, let me ultimately say a few words regarding product metrics and hand over the floor to Rinaz. So when it comes to product metrics, what is the dissimilarity or variance between Rotenshin and Firebase? Firebase has a belief that, hypothetically speaking, If I were to install the game at 5 p.m. in the evening now and log into it tomorrow morning, it would already be considered as Rotenshin Day 1. And Tengen performs calculations to determine the exact moment when a period of 24 hours has transpired since the time of my installation.
Yes, these are entirely distinct indicators that diverge.
Thus, the retention rate in Tenge is consistently lower compared to the retention rate in other currencies.
Yes, understood.
Which one is correct? That is a bachelor's question. Both of them have the right to be. And one final small note in reference to what Kenis mentioned. It is important to note that you have various items available for purchase in the store. It is highly desirable to write something there that is free, so that a person comes and write on the sign of the store that there is some bonus waiting for you. This bonus you should get for advertising. Thus, you attract a person to this very store.
At present, we have this written on a single watermelon at the bottom. I comprehended that the question has a greater visual prominence.
You do not go to the store to acquire something. It is not clear about how to establish a store and obtain this bonus that is being offered. So, I have already made the switch to UEX. Irina will provide us with some information, and then we will be able to continue our conversation as planned.
So listen, I truly add voiceover in the tutorial.
This will multiply the work on localization, and if you add, it's probably something abstract. That is blah blah blah. Now it's easy to do with the help of neural networks, but by the way, it's normal, a good idea.
In a minimum of 4 different languages, then included the capability to click on this dialogue and skip it to the number that has already been read by the user. The price you have, well, usually they set it at 0.99, 1.99. I would definitely test it if you have any purchases there at least. Then, in the store, when there are no watermelons at all, he put it and there is little interaction with the game during the battle. At least give the opportunity to choose which target to attack at the bottom. There are some bonuses. Well, they probably appear with other characters.
Well, or in general some possibilities besides merely pressing one button, throwing some bombs which are sold, something similar to that for instance. Because, like I mentioned earlier, you have the option to observe the fight for a duration of 15-20 seconds without actively taking part in it. Why does it work in the same auto chase and let's say TFT because there is animation there, and here it's just boring?
More interactivity. I'm curious, if we introduce rounds of battle with the ability to rearrange creatures between rounds, do you believe it has the potential to improve the situation and make the gameplay more engaging?
Let us continue and listen to Sasha. It is interesting. If Rinaz has finished, or Rinaz, do you have something else? Rinaz, thank you. Very clear, concise, and straight to the point. Sasha, burn.
Well, I'll be honest, straight up. Because, as I understand it, you came here not to be told that you have a cool game, but to point out some growth points, possible mistakes, and something else. Guys, there is no game. Now, at the current moment, there is no game as such. Why I do so important, it's a subjective conclusion. I want to restate Denis's words. They are as follows. Playing is dull. No understanding of the purpose and necessity of these units. To understand that there is some synergy, you have to dig somewhere far deep. And did you list any competitors? That is, moreover, well, they are not some fools there, not mommy's IT guys, but in general, very smart guys who swear well and earn well. So we need to inquire of ourselves, how can we improve? When you enter the market, you have 2 components, marketing and in-game. Marketing for those individuals, I am certain it is set up in a very cool way. Besides marketing, there's also a good product. You're still fooling around like turkeys. You have no marketing. Well, some kind of conditional, yes, I'm not talking about good, bad. That is, some kind of, I don't know, huge, big. And there is no game as a metric overall. In midcore, there is, again, subjectively, someone there may start to think what midcore is. Midcore is when you fight against deteriorating metrics. Here you have a narrower target audience. You start, like everything scales well, scale traffic, and all your metrics start to fall down. Because, well, not exactly your target, but you already capture a slightly different one. Different. And in many ways, well, not all of this permanent process. In many ways, midcore is a struggle to maintain metrics, that is some kind of plateau. What I appreciated about the game itself was the very first level I entered. It was the initial battle, and these tiny characters stood there for approximately 6 seconds with a slight delay before they began shooting. Meanwhile, there was a flying character, and as I watched for about 30 seconds, I couldn't grasp what was happening at all. When the game was loading, there was no activity, but I could clearly understand everything else that was going on. Oh, the guys were playing Brawl Stars. They drew the same UI. Cool, beautiful. Let's see what's inside. Next, here I won this first fight. They took me there. Hamster these watermelons. Watermelons are cool. The splitting is funny. The only thing I don't like, firstly, it takes too long. Secondly, right after the first fight, I needed to tap on 4 to 5 watermelons there. Like why to what? In the second battle, I already went, having some 6 or 7 creatures. I don't understand what's going on at all. I haven't even put out their creatures. What is it at all? Here you need to submit content in portions. That is, there is a clear feeling that you just catch a bunch on the player, like, dude, go figure it out, you'll stay again. It will be cool, you won't stay. Well, let's say we have expensive marketing.
Either you heavily rely on players who actively participate in this game, and that is also not entirely correct or accurate.
By the way, this watermelon on the board reminded me of Fruit Ninja. I felt like swiping it. By the way, yes.
Interesting. Even to make such a mechanic, it will be even cooler than just tapping and...
And for a timer of some kind, hang another timer like this, like you slide, and you have like an increased chance of loot there. There's more. Here? But before that, you need to make the game. I will still bring us all down from the sky. Next is the second bout. Something came up, some sort of, well, first the question, why 4 lines?
4 lines with slots for placing Unicodes. For interactive leaders, which are provided to players in the tutorial after selecting the practice they wish to fight for and completing the necessary steps. They let you battle AoE from floor, someone will heal, someone there, well, everyone has different abilities.
Lev, one more quick question also regarding creatures and interactives. While he is alone, will there be more of them?
There are 4 of them in total now. One of the 3 options is selected for the faction choice. One is purchased from the store, and the third one is provided, if I am not mistaken, for transitioning to the league.
So, I mean, on the board during the fight, will there be more than one person involved? 1 or 2, yes or 0? Why then draw so many cells under them? The reason for doing this is because it is necessary. Based on my understanding, the arrangement of creatures doesn't appear to make much sense to me personally. I observed that there are creatures able to hit 2 at once if they stand next to each other. There is a flower that has healing properties. He also in some way depending on his positioning.
Yes, he's in range.
This moment also needs to be played out. So for example, when you take such a creature, you need to at least show the radius of its action when you put it on board. Some sort of magma elemental or something similar to that, which, in case it is not standing adjacent to an individual, enhances its likelihood of striking 2 objects. The description is also very strange. That's a minus 20% chance that if he stands next to someone. This is also incorrect. On the contrary, if a creature is located outside the range, it will experience a percentage increase instead of a decrease as mentioned earlier. You need to write about the fact that he will have a negative percentage. To make it clear that he will have some additional percentage on the damage he will inflict on creatures nearby. And when you also showcase it, you must make a note to indicate that if it is indeed there. I do not comprehend what is in the vicinity, the number of cells that are in the vicinity. Yes, I comprehended.
Until 6. Nearby means a square with dimensions of 3, 3, i.e. a square that is 3 units long and 3 units wide. Yes. Who is meant? Yes, I understand. This is one of the points that we have observed, that players do not comprehend the synergy of creature work, and such displays will be beneficial in aiding their understanding.
However, in reality, players do not fully comprehend. You do not need to stress it. In certain games, when playing nearby, there are only cells, like a cross, while for some it's a radius of effect.
Look at this. It appears that in this situation, you are taking up unnecessary space from yourself because of, that is, your location is not rectangular, correct? But your location is visual because of these transitions that occur in your surroundings. It appears to be less. When discussing similar competitors, the phrase was frequently heard. There, such as cool animations, there, a character, and so on. As a player, I generally want to desire this character, and me and I, as a player, feel myself with this character, somewhere plus minus there. Well, not what I associate with, but I feel empathy towards him. Our Persian cats are extremely small. Secondly, they can be described as semi-low pole. Wouldn't you agree? Such straight hypercache, Denis also said this phrase. And therefore, I look at them as something. I will not suffer and cry, and even if my game is deleted, I will not download it again. If we are talking about mid-cores and NATO is when I want something, well, like, it's easier to spend 50 euros there in a bar with friends than, hypothetically, buy something for yourself in the same 50 euros in the game, roughly speaking. It's like that, just from the bigger. But what is NAB? This is when you, as developers, create a need, a desire in me, to buy using some small tricks to promote me. Well, for example, so I had a battle, I was beaten up, and I saw that my enemy had some kind of character who just, starting from the middle, or even from the very beginning, just knocks down everyone more powerfully. The battle is finished, deficit, bam, I have obtained a card, purchased this purse. So these are some type of minimum moments. Moving on. If we can slightly expand this workspace, visually speaking Raz, we may be able to enhance the overall experience. Secondly, if we make not 4 lines but 3, the main one, there, let's call it the commander, we will take it here or into the icon. The icon will be worse than the 3D, so to speak. Then we'll have the chance to increase our characters, make them less low-poly, i.e., give them stylized, streamlined, pleasant forms, and it'll resemble something, I don't know, like Brawl Stars. Yeah, that's it. I will navigate. Because our UI is from Brawl Stars, the color scheme is similar to Brawl Stars, and we have a watermelon from Fruit Ninja. The subsequent stage comes after. It is characterized by boredom. I mean, during the initial stage, once again, I watched for a duration of 20-30 seconds, as they engaged in combat using the 2 daisies. No, I attempted to adjust the speed of the battle, by playing around with the settings, such as HP. Moreover, it is important to note that our game is intended to become more tactical, not at this stage, but at some point during these stages. So, we need to smoothly approach this tactic, and, accordingly, somewhere it is possible to extend the battles, right? Well, yes, in fact, the duration of the battle will increase if you have more creatures, naturally, yes. So, we don't need to burden the player with this unnecessary duration in the beginning, but smoothly lead him to the point that the average duration of the battle will be 3 minutes. Somewhere, hypothetically, unsure, let's say 5 days of gameplay, roughly, and before that it will be 240, here 2.20, that is with the increase in the number of beings. Eliminate the vague cluster of characters that is causing confusion among the viewers during the second battle scene. That is, I get it. I think so. Oh, cool, I got guys. Now I'll see how they fight. And this daisy keeps looping for me. This dude, a mannequin. He's standing. I just don't understand. Some effects are passing, something else. But I see that only one guy is looping.
In the current example, the mannequin is a tank, and he is not on my side.
Teach me that the tank goes on the front line, and behind it is my flower, so enemies kick the tank there, for instance, right? You have a game about tactics, but you don't teach the player about tactics. Formation of the deck. It seems that if I gathered my pool, exist, it seems that I'm leveling them up. Yes. And in the future, well, my hand is like a deck of cards. You must form, equip, and enter the battle with her in one click outside of combat. Here's a question, I just couldn't find it. If I want to understand myself where to put them, how, where to do it? Before the bout. Okay, good. Initially the buttons are set. Yes, superb. And if I got a new creature, how do I check it in battle? And you
can only get it from the collection.
Only from the chests. Main thing not in battle won't deteriorate much.
Guys, please listen again. I have 4 guys, I won the fight, I opened this very watermelon. I extracted a fresh creature which is numbered 5.
How to understand that it is new?
No, how can one comprehend what type of creature it is? Proceed to read in the collection. Description when owning, or 2 paths in the collection are available.
The subsequent question. Do you believe it is logical and meaningful in tactical games to permit the player to set up some formation or strategy before engaging in the battle? And with this formation to go there in a bunch of battles in a row, like presets decks? I'll explain why. Sooner or later, any player will gather only their own pool of creatures that they like. So you will play with a chamomile, Oleg will run there with lilies, and Denis will be there with a stick, for example. And each of you 3 will shake there a lily, a chamomile, a stick, and you won't have to go there every time. Are you sure you want to go into battle again with your upgraded stick? Sure, why need your lily flower?
Can I also not put it quickly? In relation to tactical combat, I didn't immediately find the button to see what creatures the enemy currently has on the battlefield at this moment.
Yes, and we also noticed that not all players notice it. The button is located above the ready button.
I also initially thought so, then I made the decision to try out what this button is for. Another small nuance regarding creatures. This is my understanding. Melee characters are individuals who engage in close-range attacks using physical combat. And they are not. No, yes. Then it is better to draw an icon of a bow instead of a sword on those who attack. Either, well, depending. Either magic, if there is one, well, the animation will be magical, drawing magic or something similar. If it's physical damage but long range and again some kind of a taluk.
Further, synergies or something like that. So I still don't understand what these creatures are. I need to open these creatures gradually. Do not dump all the content in a heap, just outline the next plan for yourself. Like I desire our esteemed players to participate in my game for a duration of 1 hour in exchange for this. And during this hour, they were gaining a new experience here, applying it here, there. I don't know. Maybe some new experience again, or even not applying it, but consolidating something else entirely different. Think about how to handle this, because it's important. Yes, here. By the way, there was a moment. I will come back after all. Like, what retentions should we look at? Here, or here? In the end, guys who will give money will look at your profitability, and at everything else. Without lacking good gameplay, whether you do it or not, it doesn't truly matter. Whether you buy or not, it's irrelevant. Whether you do it or not, I'm unsure. The objective, other devices and more won't matter. You, more precisely, not me. It is imperative that you concentrate on the gameplay. I believe that if you employ a competent tutor, think about how to tie it all together. You will be able to accomplish it in a few months, and I believe the result will be different. He will be, much more positive. If all of this is done, well, maybe % on. Lift yours up, it will be there not 25 like on Firebase, but 3230 here.
We had a discussion right within the team. I simply want to bring up this topic once more with interactivity so that the game does not seem so dull and unengaging with just 2 buttons. We had an idea regarding the fact that there are multiple buffs present on the field, which can be activated by clicking on them. By doing so, you have the ability to either worsen the situation for your opponent or improve it for yourself. These buffs play a crucial role in the game, providing strategic advantages that can greatly impact the outcome of the match. Either this selection or this pick is weak. Both options have their flaws and lack strength in different ways.
This will be weak in my subjective opinion, because you have a limited number of buffs, and there are some stages of this timer, but it does not bring any interactivity. Yes, it becomes a little less boring, but it does not get rid of the fact that you press one button every 8 seconds and wait for a buff to appear, which can be quite monotonous and repetitive.
On the battlefield, a shield randomly materializes, offering protection against a specific type of damage. This shield acts as a defense mechanism, appearing unpredictably to safeguard against potential harm. Not damage, but from one damage. Weakens the entire creature with one poke, not like damage.
In this situation, if you choose a strategy, then this shield should provide defense for 2 out of 3 seconds, causing 3 damage over a span of 6 seconds. And at that point, the player already has an interactive feature when it is pressed, right? Well, if we continue to fantasize in this direction, it's not just about squeezing, but about thinking when to squeeze it. In this case, it still has the right to exist. But guys, currently, it's not about that at all. Speech concerning tutor, which is exceedingly complex, incredibly incomprehensible. It pertains to the subject of Stuya.
The fight itself, if it drags on, needs to be made more diverse for the player, so that he finds it interesting to be in this battle and watch. Just as an outsider observer, as I mentioned, how it works in battlegrounds in after chess. Currently, in my perspective, there have been sightings of gladiators at the Dota level, in my opinion. The act of watching how it happens to you can be quite boring because you don't have dynamic characters. Instead, they just go through a conditional damage animation, which is considered as a -1. However, in the case of a critical hit, the deduction is much greater, amounting to a -10. And that is it. I mean, as an external observer, I am bored. Do not forget, you are competing in the entertainment market with TikTok, a popular social media platform. Our competitors did, and it is imperative that you make it in such a way that if you stick, then from the second device, so that I can stick both in TikTok and in your minute, at the very least. She has a need to make it more enjoyable.
Regarding synergy and everything else, imagine here are your, I will call your circles cells, and the other shape spheres. Your cells, you put it here, let's replace this word with Chubrikov, let's say, 3 pieces. And somehow they synergize with each other, for example, in terms of magical damage, right? You do it like this, just a little triangle effect. Well, you put some decal at the bottom, a little blue triangle, and I, as a player, know that blue means magic. I understand that there is a buff over each. Here. But it's important to consider the presence of peaches now and not overdo it with the visual component, so that I, as a player, don't have. There is a high cognitive load. However, until all of this becomes very far away, the next task at hand is to work in the tour and focus on the immediate objectives. Blow up all the tutories, give a normal, adequate content delivery. This is at the first stage. Pour 50-50. Yes, you can spend some money. I mean, roll it, spend some money. You can work on them if you have any Brazil there. So we'll see. It improved, worsened, or there it is. My view is that a 10% increase in absolute terms, well, 8 more precisely, I'd say, you'll get at this point. If you notice that these players still have an advantage, it will definitely mean that when you become a leader in the USA, this version will still be superior. Well, I mean, you know.
At least. What you wrote that you are currently buying in the States for 40 cents simply means that you have extremely small volumes. Extremely small volumes. Just in the event that we could acquire any non-corporate project in the United States for a mere 40 cents, then we would be presently situated somewhere in the renowned Silicon Valley.
Yes, I comprehend that such a quantity will not endure for a long duration. If we add more, the expense will rise. We simply purchase small amounts. I comprehend that. Thank you very much.
Denis, do you have anything else you would like to add?
Well, mostly, I believe we've covered everything we needed to. And as I mentioned, regrettably, it's challenging to provide any advice on monetization at the moment, since the gameplay itself requires improvement, and only with enhanced gameplay will we be able to ascertain what is lacking. I did not have enough advertising triggers, at least not sufficient ones. I also did not have enough inappropriate offers. However, once again, without some kind of player catching and their constant hanging in the game, it does not make sense to do it in this way.
Regarding advertising monetization, the current implementation includes Iron Source, Unity, AppLovin. However, this selection is not optimal, especially for a starting point. I would suggest these 2 methods. Naked AdMob, because it does not have such low-quality advertisements, that is. If we have a conversation about all advertising networks, then AdMob stands out with the lowest churn rate among them. If we are discussing specifically about nerd mediation, because what is currently happening cannot be referred to as mediation in any manner. If we are talking about full-fledged mediation, but the authorities definitely do not have such resources and record managers now, then traditionally I will send you to us at CAS and just take connect. You will have the same 14 networks under the hood right away, and that's it. And you don't have to manage or come up with anything. I probably have everything. Gleb, tell me, what did you take out?
To start with, focus on enhancing the product and the game loop, making it more captivating, dynamic, and adding synergy. Also, aim for a smoother entry into the game by dividing it into manageable portions and explaining it to players in a simpler and more rational manner. In advertising, we should now change tactics and buy on Google. In ISO, we integrate ISO, which was created for us. We will work, but for now, the game metrics are small. No matter how much you buy, you will not make a profit from user acquisition. Same leitmotif like others, i.e., unfortunately, too low indicators for all countries. Advertising doesn't pay off, countries don't pay off. This is due to the fact that currently the game is lacking interest in certain aspects, and it requires enhancements in order to be more appealing. Working on product metrics, improving, extending driving, iterating each time, then enhancing the product with each stage to make it better.
There was an excellent analysis, guys. I believe that everyone enjoyed it. Do not forget to like, and so on. Thank you very much to our experts. Everyone did a good job. Thank you.